Hi there, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Joy Hoisington, functional nutrition coach and natural culinary specialist. And if you're new here, would you just take a moment to go ahead and subscribe below and make sure to turn on the notification bell so that when I post weekly videos, you will be notified. I am here today to talk to you about the root causes of heartburn and acid reflux. So heartburn is basically the result of acids and enzymes washing up into the esophagus and sometimes the throat. This can be a very unpleasant condition that can cause a variety of symptoms, from a burning sensation in the chest or throat, and even a feeling of food being stuck in the throat, a chronic cough, hoarseness, excessive throat clearing from mucus buildup, and even just a sore throat. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the root causes of heartburn and acid reflux and what types of testing or food interventions that you can do to address them. There are plenty of lifestyle changes and treatments that can address the root causes of heartburn and acid reflux. Firstly, heartburn can be caused by what's called hypochlorhydria or low stomach acid. You might be puzzled since most people tend to think that acid reflux is from too much stomach acid. A simple at-home test that you can do to find out if this could be the problem for you is to take 8 ounces of water and mix in about a quarter teaspoon of baking soda and go ahead and drink that down. If you don't burp within 5 minutes, and it's a good idea to set a timer so that you can find out how long it has been exactly until burping, then there's a good chance that your stomach acid is not sufficient enough. Now, the reason why is that even if you can do a test with vinegar yourself at home and baking soda, you'll see that when you combine them together, they produce bubbles, and that's because it produces carbon dioxide, and that's what causes burping when we go ahead and ingest something like baking soda. Now, you can do this test for 4 or 5 days consecutively to see if you can get a more accurate average of how long it takes over that period of time, and that might give you more of an accurate result. This will give you an idea of low stomach acid as the culprit. There are certain people who are more likely to have low stomach acid. Those who are vegan or vegetarian, simply because stomach acid is primarily secreted in response to eating animal protein. So when the animal protein is restricted in someone's diet, stomach acid production goes down. Or for those who have iron deficiency anemia, have vitamin B12 deficiency or pernicious anemia, if you're on proton pump inhibitors, have autoimmune disease of any kind, or osteoporosis, you're more likely to have low stomach acid. And back to the vitamin B12 and iron, I just wanted to mention that sufficient stomach acid is needed to be able to absorb vitamin B12 and iron from foods. And so this is why, if you already have iron deficiency anemia or low vitamin B12, then stomach acid being low is likely one of the culprits. If you suspect that you have low stomach acid, there are 3 things that you can do. Each morning you can drink a glass of water with fresh squeezed lemon juice, like the juice of 1/2 of a lemon in a full glass of water, or 1 teaspoon of raw organic apple cider vinegar in a full glass of water. What this does is it trains your stomach to produce sufficient stomach acid secretion. If either of these things aren't helpful enough, or if you can't tolerate citrus or apple cider vinegar for whatever reason, you can try taking a stomach acid supplement. This is going to usually be called betaine hydrochloride, or betaine HCl for short. I left a link to access my dispensary below to see what sort of supplement that I'm talking about and what sort of supplements I recommend for my clients. You can go ahead and create an account on there and take a look. The supplement that I recommend is betaine HCl by Enzymedica. Now, this supplement is usually taken with meals, either shortly before a meal or with your meals, to create the same effect as the lemon juice and the apple cider vinegar does. And it will likely not need to be used long term once your stomach learns how to secrete stomach acid again. I should mention that if you have an active H. pylori infection or stomach ulcers of any kind, then you should not use stomach acid, as it can cause worsening of the ulcers, which brings me to my next root cause. Another root cause of heartburn and acid reflux is H. pylori infection. This is a type of bacteria that can turn into an infection of the stomach, which is actually a very common thing, and many people don't know that they have it because they sometimes don't even have symptoms. H. pylori produces an enzyme called urease that neutralizes stomach acids, which is what makes them less effective and leads to a compromised gut lining. This is what causes ulcers, is the fact that the gut lining is no longer protecting the underlying tissues from strong acids like pepsin and the hydrochloric acid. This level of inflammation can be very problematic. And I should mention again that if you have an active H. pylori infection or have stomach ulcers of any kind, you should not use stomach acid supplementation, as it can cause worsening ulcers or irritation. There is testing that you can do for H. pylori and specialized treatment in the event that you test positive on a quantitative stool panel. I use a company called Avexia Diagnostics for my clients to be able to do testing such as this. Another cause of heartburn and acid reflux is a structural abnormality such as a hiatal hernia. This can be diagnosed by a physician by doing a barium swallow and an x-ray. The last root cause of heartburn and acid reflux that I'm going to talk about today are food sensitivities. What happens is that foods such as gluten, for example, create specific proteins in the gut lining that force openings in between the tight junctions of the GI tract. This allows for undigested food particles and proteins to enter the bloodstream prematurely, which is what leads to immune system reactions. A part of your immune system called the adaptive immune system learns to recognize components of food as invaders, so that each time you consume that food component, usually proteins, antibodies are released to attack the invader, which leads to inflammation and tissue damage over time. The top foods that can trigger a food sensitivity reaction are gluten commonly and dairy, but there are many more. It may be helpful for you to keep what I call a food mood poop journal, which is a tool that I use with my clients to track when your symptoms began, what foods you were consuming at the time. I'm going to go ahead and leave a link below for you to go ahead and download the exact tool that I use with my clients for your very own FMP journal to start doing this now. If you've had difficulty determining which foods you are sensitive to, it might be the perfect time to try a food elimination diet. This takes between 2 and 4 weeks on average. If you've already worked through the process of finding out what your food sensitivities might be through a food elimination diet and still suspect that you have more food sensitivities, you can do further lab testing with an IgG food sensitivity blood panel. Although this is a little bit pricey of an option, it is an option for people who kind of need it as a last resort. And this can be helpful to uncover some foods that you never would have suspected that you're sensitive to. A few more foods to pay attention to for heartburn and acid reflux are ice cold beverages, caffeine and sugar, carbonated beverages, and if it's really extreme, as it was for me after having COVID last year, you might have to avoid things temporarily such as chocolate, citrus, tomatoes, onions, garlic, peppers, and peppermint temporarily. When I had to do this last year, I was very overwhelmed because all those foods are the foods that I love, but it did help just until I got my gut function back to normal, which took about 2 months after the virus. If you feel overwhelmed at the idea of doing an elimination diet on your own and you would like professional support to walk you through everything, I encourage you to go ahead and schedule a 30-minute assessment session with me so that we can take a little bit of time through a quick conversation to determine if either A, we could work together to help solve your digestive distress issues, or B, to see if I could refer you to someone else who can help you, that if it is out of my scope. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and if you would like more information on remedies and supplements to help combat heartburn and acid reflux, I encourage you to watch this video I did called How to Combat Acid Reflux and Heartburn that gives you quite a few tips and supplements to try. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.